Hey everybody, it is March 17th, just doing a Monday market update for Bitcoin. So first off, and most importantly, it is the week. FOMC, economic projections, interest rate decision, press conference with Powell, all at 18 UTC, just as I'm +1. So remember 18 UTC on Wednesday, expect major volatility. On Bitcoin for the long short side, we from the weekend came down. This is Friday, very, very high at about 70%. We've now, over the weekend and even now, shorts are stepping back in, trying to short this structure. This is the first sign that we're going to potentially start gaining some stuff back instead of losing levels, but we are still technically at resistance until we gain the March open. On the funding rate side, pretty bullish funding rates, neutral across the board, looks relatively good in general to have some type of potential continuation here. So this is looking good. Not a lot of pressure. The majority of the short order book is still in place. And yeah, that's gonna those liquidity and liquidations are gonna act like a magnet. However, looking at the liquidation zones that we have right above us, the more we kind of squeeze closer to this upside move around 85K, the closer we are to just squeezing through all of this, potentially all the way up to 88, 89K. The big things here are we've taken some of the local stuff. If we make any lows that start to break underneath 82K, likely that we get a sweep back towards 80.5 and potentially all the way back down to test the lows. But we do not want to lose this low. We pretty much want to stop somewhere around 80.5, 81K if we sweep the liquidations right below us. But the amount that's above us, we have tons. I'd say any gain that starts breaking us out, we could literally just rep through all of the liquidations here above us. There's also a guy at 86K. He's probably pretty popular. You saw him on the hyper liquid shorting. As far as I understand, his position's still in play, and he has a $430 million short. So imagine $430 million potentially flipping long, right? Because that's the market effect if he gets liquidated here at $86,060 approximately. So with that being said, looking at the liquidity in the local structure, zoom out a little bit so we can get some of the most important levels. So the big things here are we do have some pressure right below us to potentially hold stuff. I would say that if we do start breaking down from kind of 83.5, this kind of like local range gain high, then I'd probably want to see price come back down towards this kind of 82K, retest some of these lows. As we saw, there's some liquidations right underneath this structure down towards 82. So we want to see some holds. We got some stuff stepping in below us, and the only major resistance here is at 85 with about 300 Bitcoin orders sitting there. Nothing between here and like 86.5, so that's good. I would say that if we start breaking out, we should see a nice rip up into this zone and preferably higher. 88 and 89K are definitely on the menu. Below us, plunge protection is still definitely in place. So any new lows, obviously, we're still technically making new lows on the higher time frame, and any new lows that start to break 80K opens up the retest and new lows in the overall structure. So just remember, if we do start breaking stuff, don't be afraid to flip short again if everyone else starts to press the green button. Looking at the charts, what is the plan for this zone? So big things is the weekend was a big nothing burger. We had some nice pops the upside. Some interesting things on Sunday with some attempts to liquidate that big cat who's up here at 86,060 bucks approximately. So the real thing here is if we do have any kind of gain and bullish back test here in March, I think we might just rip it right into the lows and potentially even higher than that to come up and test structure above us. There's some interesting levels to retest when we start talking about up in here, up in this structure around 89, 90K. So if we do start gaining March, this is the key high time frame level on the daily time frame. So we've been chugging along from the low. We've made a higher high on a wick, higher low, higher high on a close, higher low. And like I said, it looks relatively good. What's the failure that starts to break stuff down? You lose the weekly open. If you start losing the weekly open, you want to see a nice pullback into the previous weekly and test the low structure. Until then, you've got some local upside trending stuff, but the higher time frame is still down. So looking at the daily, just so we're all clear on the perspective here, right? Clear breakdowns of structure, right? Breaking down from structure, breaking down from structure, still at resistance, breaking down from structure. So we're basically losing ranges and going lower. That's the key to understanding this type of price action. Where are we at now? We're at the resistance. We're at the low of the previous move. We want to see the gains back, right? To start regaining the previous range, the one we broke out of. Now, the high time frame is actually pretty simple here. The fact is, we are in a massive volume dead zone We had 8 months of this kind of stuff below 70K where we just went sideways and it really crushed people's souls. But realistically, the volume between 93K and actually, yeah, from about 93K down to 70K, it's rather minimal. Worst case scenario, and this is probably major punishment for people, would have us to be crab around and actually range in this zone on the higher time frame. So in general, you've still broken down and lost levels. That's just the big important thing. So daily time frame, you're still losing levels. If you gain back March, you're probably looking for somewhere between 88 and 90K for some type of retest. I think if we gain March and just rip through it, we should see a failure up in this kind of 88, 90 zone to then have a pull back. But in general, you're still losing levels. You want to gain stuff to back. You know what I mean? Close above the March, right? Bullishly backtest. That's what constitutes gains. Same thing as loss. You have to lose it and then bearishly retest and go down. On the weekly time frame, it's still really wrecked. We've still lost the entire upside range completely. And now we farmed out some little nasty range here. Realistically, if we gain back March, we could still just ping pong in this zone, farm out some more structure, and break even lower. There's no way we know we're out of this move until we start regaining the yearly open. That is the key to the higher time frame. And then eventually we're going to talk about December. If we can gain 96.5, that can actually flip the priority, the major high time frame priority back to the upside and not just regaining the lows. So local price action structure is pretty simple. You're still technically looking for this to squeeze out of this upside move, squeeze out of March to go break through, test some of the previous weekend structure, liquidate that big guy at 86,000, and then you're probably looking for a failure somewhere roundabouts there, effectively, where we'd look for some type of like bearish back test if we have the breakout. Until we get the breakout, right? You should, we've been gaining levels. You get a couple longs to go see if we get the breakout. If we now fail at the weekly open, we want to come back down to retest 81K, back to retest the previous weekly, and any loss of this structure forces retests back into the 70s, the high 70s. So tentatively, it looks good. We're still at resistance. We're still high time frame trending down. There's a big chance we start to flip stuff if we start gaining back some levels, and we want to see retail shorting. The funding rates are good. Retail starting to short it again, and the liquidations are pretty strong right above us. I think that gets tagged. That's just my vote. But watch that. Invalidation of the upside, very simple. Lose the weekly, flip bearish, come back down and retest the lows. That's it. Peace out.